Every video game franchise has an origin or starting place where the line of succession begins. In this video, we'll cover the history of the Spintires franchise from the very first Spintires Beta to the latest entry, Snowrunner. We will view in detail the game's history, which began long before most people realize, and also how it evolved into the most popular version yet. So, without further ado, let's jump into this and check it out. The first official demo of Spintires was showcased at the 2009 Intel Level Up competition and was a solo project of a single developer and former Saber Interactive employee, Pavel. His demo impressively won first prize for Best Multi-Threaded Game and second prize for Best Game Optimized for Intel Graphics categories. The demo's lineup only had two of the following trucks. Early features of this demo were a heads-up display gauge for speed, an RPM, a manual-only gearbox that was operated by using the mouse, and an option to allow for self-centering of the steering wheel. For camera settings, the game had a click-and-hold based 360 rotation feature as well as multiple predefined camera presets. This demo also introduced different terrains such as paved roads, dirt roads, and the terrain deformation physics, which the series is now well known for. Around the same time, a second demo was released, and though it's not clear which of the two came first, the second one is still worth discussing. In this demo, Spintires got its first ever logo. The only truck available was the Kraz 255, the most reoccurring truck in the franchise's history. This demo only had a fixed camera system and a manual 3-speed gearbox. HUD elements included redesigned speed and RPM gauges, but this time a minimap was added along with a simple A to B driving objective system. Between 2009 and 2011, Pavel, in partnership with Oovee, a UK-based publisher and developer, worked on another demo that was released in 2011. We believe that to accelerate testing, this demo ran at around 10 times the rate of normal gameplay. Overall HUD elements were slightly redesigned and the minimap could be zoomed in. This time, the lineup would consist of the following 5 trucks. Since this demo had only nighttime driving, a headlight with an on-off toggle switch was added. An automatic transmission was introduced for the first time, and the manual transmission was now a 5-speed stick shifter, which works as follows. A new camera overlook was introduced, giving a view of head sticking out of driver window for scouting and also for backing up. This demo drastically improved terrain deformation, with tires now getting dirty, and also there were 6 testing maps available with different terrains, which are as follows. Spintires was ready again with another demo for the Intel Level Up competition in 2011, which was held in March of 2012. For this year, a new Striker APC was added, the first and the last American vehicle for Spintires along with the usual duo of trucks. The HUD was updated with a minimap capable of zooming and panning as well as a recovery to garage option. Yes, this demo also introduced a garage with the ability to switch trucks, install or uninstall multiple add-ons and customizations which can be unlocked through completing missions. Missions consist of collecting a number of packages that were scattered on the map, which players need to deliver at warehouses by not only fighting off the mud, but also the newly added water currents. Automatic and manual transmissions were integrated into a single stick shifter. While the automatic transmission provided a higher top speed on asphalt roads, the manual transmission now allowed the use of differential locking, a must-have when off-roading. Over a year later, a new Spintires demo was put on Kickstarter.com to help funding. In this demo, the only truck available was the Maz 535. All-wheel drive and diff lock were now switchable through on and off toggles, and the redesigned HUD was no longer showing speed and RPM gauges. The game also received a complete graphic overhaul with a 24-hour dynamic cycle, morning fog, evening sunsets, as well as other graphical improvements. More updates soon followed and included an early version of the UAZ 469 and the return of the Kraz 255. The Spintires Kickstarter ended up raising $82,684, helping the developer ready the game for final release. On June 13th, 2014, Spintires was released on Steam, and within a few days of its release, it sold around 100,000 copies, becoming one of the top sellers on Steam. It remained on the top 10 even a month later. Spintires was a success. Retail version added a ton of new trucks, which were as follows. Some trucks got redesigned, and some got replaced by similar models. It's worth mentioning that all sorts of manufacturer names and logos from trucks that were all in the beta versions were all removed. A proper garage was also added where you can install add-ons and trailers to your trucks. Some trucks also featured changeable tires. The game got a new logo and initially had 5 maps playable in casual or hardcore mode with single player and multiplayer support. The main objective of the game was delivering logs from point A to point B. There were a ton of new features like winch support on every truck, working fuel, and repair add-ons. Many more features were added which we can't discuss in this video due to time restrictions. Sometime after the game released, there was controversy between the original creator, Pavel, and the publisher, Oovee, where Pavel accused Oovee of not paying him according to the contract and cut off communication, allegedly leaving him unable to update the game. Oovee, however, denied the allegations, and later both parties ended the dispute, calling it a communication issue. However, the damage was done, and the next year, Pavel left Oovee's studio and joined former employer Saber Interactive. More on that later. Spintires received various small updates, including a major one that introduced the first new free DLC map called The Flood. Throughout this update cycle, some new trucks were added, which are as follows. Some trucks got redesigned, and some got replaced by similar models. Another major update hit Spintires later in 2015, adding one new truck, the GAZ 66, and removing 2 old trucks. All truck models received more details like animated drive shafts and overall more polished mechanics. The main feature this update added was official mod support accessible through the Steam Workshop, enabling mod creators to release their vehicles and maps in one place. Several quality of life changes also got added along the way, like the new roof camera option, new cart-based trailers, as well as the ability to choose trucks before starting a map based on the concept of balance points per truck. Manual transmissions now had a set of 3 gears, allowing for better RPM control when off-roading or pulling heavy loads. Spintires was doing well, but a major bug which renders the game unplayable was discovered in 2016. Publisher and developer Oovee accused Pavel of intentionally sabotaging the game with a time bomb bug, which he denied. Later, both parties worked together to fix the game, which led to the game being pulled out of Steam temporarily. At that time, a sequel to Spintires was in the making, as Oovee licensed the game to Saber Interactive to make improvements and enhancements while still owning the rights of the original Spintires. This was the start of the split of Spintires into two games. With Pavel now part of the team, Saber Interactive and its new publisher, Focus Home Interactive, released Spintires Mudrunner on October 31st, 2017, not only for PC, but also for PlayStation and Xbox consoles for the first time. Mudrunner was an improved, more polished version of Spintires with some new features and gameplay elements that we will discuss later. The first thing that old players of Spintires noticed in Mudrunner was the modified front grills on vehicles to avoid copyright lawsuits. The front grills were designed from the original looks, which were based on the real-life versions of the vehicles. Mudrunner added back all vehicles ever released in the original Spintires from 2014 to 2016. Some trucks got replaced, and some were new trucks that were introduced as well. Mudrunner also introduced some new improvements, which are as follows. Throughout 2017, Mudrunner received tons of quality of life updates, improving gameplay and graphics like this new centered camera on vehicles and a brand new first-person cockpit view. But this was just the beginning, as Saber had several DLCs in the pipeline. The first free DLC was released in early 2018, which introduced the all-new Valley map, as well as 3 new vehicles with their own add-ons and trailers. The Ridge was the second free DLC released this year, introducing 2 new trucks. The new map, called The Ridge, introduced a new scavenging gameplay element where you have to scavenge logs from different places in the map in order to complete the objective. A new feature adding tarps on locked trucks that would slide off when approached as the vehicle unlocks was also added. The American Wilds DLC was the biggest expansion in the game's history, as it introduced 9 American vehicles, with 7 of them officially licensed from American vehicle manufacturers, and the other 2 were simply unlicensed. Those new vehicles came with their own new American-style add-ons, trailers, and also a new model for the driver was added. 2 brand new American-themed maps were included, Grizzly Creek and Mount Logmore. These new maps had new building models for garages, fuel stations, and other environmental models. Shortly after that, on November 27, 2018, the game was released on Nintendo Switch with all of its DLCs. This DLC was the last one for Mudrunner. It introduced 2 more licensed American vehicles. The map for this DLC was called Rocky Hills. It featured a unique loaded log cart for scout vehicles, allowing them to contribute to the logging missions for the first time. Overall, Mudrunner was a success, selling more than 1 million copies on all platforms. Between 2016 and 2019, Spintires received no major update and was even taken down from Steam. Thankfully, the game was back on sale soon after. In July of 2019, Spintires finally received a big content update, changing its name from Spintires to Spintires The Original Game. The updates also added some new and previously removed trucks. This update also came with the following graphical changes. In August 2019, a free-to-download DLC called Canyons was introduced, featuring a new vehicle, along with a new map called The Canyons. few months later, the first ever paid DLC for Spintires was released called Aftermath. This one had 2 new trucks. Of course, the DLC included a new map of the same name. Later in 2019, the Chernobyl DLC was released, which included 2 new trucks. A Chernobyl-inspired map brought a new feature called Radiation Zones. These areas damage your truck when you drove through them. The Spintires story wasn't over yet, but around this time period, the rumors of Mudrunner 2 were spreading, which we will discuss next. After the success of Mudrunner, the developer at Saber Interactive started working on a new entry for the franchise, initially first marketed as Mudrunner 2, a sequel to 2017's Mudrunner. It was later renamed Snowrunner, and was finally released for PC, PS4, and Xbox One on April 28, 2020. Within a few months of its release, it sold over 1 million copies over all platforms. Snowrunner was a completely new game with new gameplay mechanics, graphics, tons of new licensed and unlicensed vehicles, each with their own unique interiors with working gauges and ORVMs. Also, each vehicle can be upgraded with unlockable or purchasable upgrades like all-wheel drive, differential locking, raisable suspensions, different tires, and tons of visual customization options. For the first time, the game had currency and experience, which players could get by completing tasks, contracts, and contests. This allowed the player to buy trucks and trailers through the respective truck and trailer stores. Along with mud, dirt, and asphalt and other types of terrains, the game also featured snow and ice terrain, thus the name Snowrunner. This addition to the franchise is still getting updated with tons of new DLCs, improvements, and new gameplay elements. At this point, there's so much content added in Snowrunner that it deserves its own video, but that is a topic for another day. Getting back to Spintires, roughly 6 months after the Chernobyl DLC, Spintires received the Vehicle Pack update, which added 4 of the following trucks. While the original Spintires was getting back on track with new updates and Snowrunner was doing well on all platforms, Saber released a mobile version of Mudrunner for Android and iOS, which features all vehicles from its PC and console counterparts except the 9 licensed American vehicles. The graphics were downgraded to make it manageable for the mobile platform hardware, and gameplay received small changes, mainly in controls and difficulty aspects. Later in July, the new Sherp Ural Challenge DLC gets introduced, and this was the first time the original Spintires had official licensed vehicles in the game. These were working amphibious vehicles like they are in real life, also featuring their unique steering mechanism. Besides the new vehicles, the Ural Challenge map was also added, along with some new features like tire pressure adjustments on selected trucks, allowing for tire grip to be fine-tuned, an orbital 360 camera, which was missing from the game for so long, and a sort of photo mode was introduced, making it easier for players to take personalized screenshots. Later in 2020, another big DLC called China Adventure was released, adding 3 of the following trucks to the game. Two new maps were also added called China Village and China Canyons, featuring 2 new cargo types as well, an example, rice bags and metal pipes. This was to be the last DLC the game received, as it was taken down from Steam shortly after this DLC release due to the ongoing dispute between Saber Interactive and Oovee over the rights to theme music, the design of the K700 tractor, and several other trademarks of the game. Following this controversy, the K700 was removed from all Steam copies of Spintires and has remained so to this day. We hope to see this resolved soon so that more players can get access to Spintires and enjoy this beautiful game which started as a single person's passion project and grew so big that it now has a huge community of those who love these games because, well, they're one of a kind. If you found this information useful, then please consider liking, subscribing, and show some support to those that contributed to making this video. I hope you have a wonderful day, God bless, and stay upright.